Before we start this video, I just want to let you guys know that we are now officially sponsored by Match Bingo. We need every single one of you right now to click the link down below in the description. I mean right now, literally click the description right now and download the app. This is basically bingo with a twist. Instead of trying to call out numbers, you're trying to call out big moments in a match, like, let's say, goals, offsides, fouls. These are the sorts of games that you're trying to call out. And it is a gambling game, but you can gamble responsibly because you only can do a max of £2 per game. So you don't have to worry about spending too much or throwing too much money down the drain or anything. You can even do a couple free games if you just want to dip your toe in and get a little idea of what the app is about. So again, guys, if you guys do want to get involved, click the link right now. Click the link in the description below. Helps out the channel, and it is also a really fun game to do as well. So guys, again, click the link, download the app, and we'll see you over there.
Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow night, big one at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea versus Man United. The Blues desperate to return to winning ways after a dreadful draw against Burnley at the weekend. United struggling themselves as well, not playing the best football, but still somehow finding a way to pick up results in games. Mason Mount returning to Stamford Bridge in goal-scoring form. Probably he's not going to be in for a good reception, but you know, wonder if he can play a role in any potential United success. Chelsea's record is dreadful against Man United in the league. I haven't beaten them since 2017 in the Premier League, and the only win we have had in the last few years was that FA Cup semi-final back in the COVID time. So yeah, I haven't got a good record. Don't know what it is, but yeah, delighted to be joined by Beth from the United stand to go through the game, get the thoughts from the United perspective. Beth, it's not been a great season for United, dreadful Champions League campaign, but you can still somehow qualify for the Champions League if that fifth place does come to fruition. And there is an FA Cup semi-final against Coventry, which should see you make another final. Ten Hag is under pressure. There's a lot of people that don't want Ten Hag to be the manager anymore. But I mean, can this season still be a success?
I mean, first of all, thank you for having me on the channel. And can this season still be a success? I mean, I know people talking about that fifth spot. I just don't see us catching either Spurs or Villa. I just don't see it, especially the way that we're performing. I've kind of written off the thought of Champions League football. I sort of written it off when Luke Shaw got injured. I think he's so integral to the way we play, and the amount of injuries we've had across that back line, I just don't see us getting it. But you know, Europa League, if there is a new manager in, that could give him an opportunity to rotate some players. If Ten Hag's still here, then maybe it gives him that break he needs to try and instill his style of play into the players. But in terms of a successful season, I mean, to get to the FA Cup final, which hopefully, like you said, we won't stumble against Coventry at Wembley, to get to the FA Cup final will be massive for us. Like, at the end of the day, Man United are underperforming. Man United are not the Man United of old, and I think United fans have kind of come to accept that now. It's sad to say we should be challenging for trophies every single season, but that hasn't been the case for a number of years now. So to go to the FA Cup final last year, win the Carabao Cup last year, and then to have two more Wembley trips hopefully again this year with the potential of winning it, I think would be partly successful. Not getting Champions League as a club like Man United, though, it's just, there's no excuse for that. I would be gutted if that doesn't happen, which I don't think it will. So for me, it can't be a successful season, but there can be some shining lights in that, and the FA Cup final would definitely be one of them.
I mean, Ten Hag had a decent first season, as you said, you know, won the Carabao Cup, come in a top four, and made it to the FA Cup final as well. Why do you think he's struggled so much the second season? I know obviously second season is generally a lot more difficult, but why do you think he's struggled to push on? Because the sort of the style of play, the identity that was there last season doesn't seem to be there at all this season. United, you know, conceding a lot of shots on goal. At times, the midfield's non-existent, really easy to play through. No one really seems to know how United play. Why do you think he struggled to kick on from that good debut season?
I think there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is, you know, new manager bounce wears off with players, and I do think that's the case. Second thing, if you actually, you know, watch Man United from like last year compared to this year, I think last year Ten Hag started out, and obviously we had that horrible result against Brentford, like that, I think it was like 4-1, which was like a disaster, coming off the back of a 2-1 loss at home to Brighton in the opening day. And then we had Liverpool next, and he was already under pressure. And I think he thought to himself, I can't play the way I want to play with this group of players. And he just completely changed the way he was going about things, because the way we tried to approach that Brentford game and the Brighton game was just completely different to how we approached the rest of the season. We were a lot more conservative for the rest of the season. And I think coming into this season, you got a few more signings under his belt. You know, Mason Mount, I think, was one of them he was counting on. Obviously got injured. And I think he thought, you know what, I'm going to play the way I want to play this year. Sadly, I don't think these players are capable of it. I think he's backtracked on his style of play a lot. So we'll have a few bad results, and then we'll go back to parking the bus, kind of counter-attack football. Then we'll try and play his style of football. And even though we play so poorly, you can sort of say, oh, 1 second, my AirPod's falling out. Hold on. You can sort of see the way he wants to play. And he through the forward players. He wants the midfield to press up high. He wants to play through the ball, through the defenders, and press out the pitch and have inverted fullbacks. There's ways he wants to play, but the problem is, a lot of the times this season, we've not been able to fulfil that. And what it's looked like is our forward players pressing high up and doing it just in a poor way, and then our midfield's just a completely open hole, and we get counter-attacks, and we don't have players who can keep the ball. There's so many types of different players in that squad. There's players back from, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ole, Ten Hag. The recruitment's been poor, so I think altogether this season, injuries as well is another massive one. I think he wanted to change things last season, the midfield of Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno. It worked for us. It did really well. But Eriksen has kind of, he has dropped off. That injury he's not recovered from. I think he wanted to bring Mason Mount in to play two high-pressing number 8s within Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount. And he's not been able to do that. And I think altogether, the team just isn't able to do what he wants them to do. And that's partly down to him, but also partly down to poor recruitment from our end as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of clubs suffering from poor recruitment this season. But there have been some good players that have played well this season. I mean, the emergence of Kobbie Mainoo is massive for Man United. I think he looks an exceptional talent. He adds a real calmness and composure to that midfield. He's been a revelation. I mean, how impressive United fans been by him? Because obviously, not following United as closely as yourself, I didn't know an awful lot about him until he kind of started playing. But he looks like he's been playing in that United midfield for years. I mean, just how much better can this guy actually get?
Yeah, he's absolutely phenomenal. I actually last season watched a lot of the under-21s games when they were based in Manchester. And I always remember thinking, he was top draw. I knew he was going to be a good player, but then when he came into the team, he was so much better than what I thought he was ever going to be. He just looks like he's been playing for years. He never loses the football. He's so calm and composed. He always looks to play the ball forward. And I think his main strength is just how press resistant he is. It's crazy to think he was in a midfield three of Declan Rice, who's arguably been signing of the season of the Premier League, Jude Bellingham, who's arguably the best player in the world right now, and he stood out in that midfield. He was so good, and that's kind of what Man United fans have been seeing all season. To think he's producing these sort of performances at 18 years old, I mean, the sky is honestly the limit for him. Physically, he's really good too. I mean, he's won the most duels out of any midfielder for Manchester United this season, which, people are arguing whether he's a number 6 or whether he's a number 8. Honestly, I think he can play both roles. He's so versatile. I just think for England and for Man United, he's going to be a top player, and that press resistance it's a lot harder to come by now, especially with Man United players. A lot of our players treat the ball like it's like a hot potato. He looks after it, so he's very vital to our midfield. And credit where credit's due, Ten Hag has brought him through really well. And when we won the Carabao Cup last year, there's a little clip of Ten Hag with his arm around Kobbie Mainoo, basically saying to him this is going to be you next year and stuff like that. And I think he's handled that talent really well. So got other ones as well, Garnacho, Højlund, but Kobbie Mainoo really is standout right now.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. I mean, we can't not talk about Mason Mount. I mean, obviously, don't need to go into the details of him leaving and whatnot, but look, it's been a difficult start for him. Ten Hag obviously wanted him. He was his guy. He singled him out. He got him. Picked up an injury after a couple of games, and then picked up a calf injury as well. He'd been out for months. Obviously, he returned against Brentford. Come off the bench, scored a goal. Maybe that can be good for his confidence from a United perspective. But what's kind of the feeling around Mason Mount with the United fans? Because it's been a tricky start to his life at United. And I've seen a lot of people talking about, where does he actually fit into this team? Is there space to play both him and Bruno, or is there only really room for one of them unless Bruno potentially plays wide? Because Mount's not going to play alongside a Casemiro or a Mainu in midfield. He really wants to play kind of, I guess, as a number 8. Yes, he can play as an inside forward, but I think the number 8 is really where he plays his best football. So what have United fans thinking of Mount at the moment? And can you see a team where him and Fernandes both are in it together in those number 8 positions?
Well, I think Mason Mount's reception was very mixed when he first came to the club. I think a lot of people were frustrated with the injury straight off the bat. And I think a lot of people thought we spent £60 million on a player that we didn't really need. Like, when you look at the positions that we have, I don't think anyone doubts that Mason Mount is a good player. I mean, personally for me, I really do rate him. I think he's a very good player. And I'm happy that we bought him. But there was a mixed reception with United fans at first. I think now, because the team is underperforming so much, everybody kind of wants a solution. So people now think, Mason Mount needs to start, that's going to help us out. But realistically, the team as a whole is underperforming. I think Mason Mount and Bruno can play in a midfield together. I just think it's a midfield that needs to be coached properly and has to be disciplined. Bruno Fernandes has to adjust his role if that was going to happen. And you would have to obviously have a big support behind them. But I do think they can play together. And like you said, Mason Mount against Brentford, I don't see this being the long-term solution for him. But he did come on the left side of the forward line in Rashford's position, and he did really well. He really did do well when he came on and had some crucial little touches, obviously took his goal really well. I do think there's space from that team. I do think Ten Hag does have a plan for him. But like you said, I think his best position is linking the play as a number 8. Or he can play as a number 10 as well, but when he played when he just came back from injury, before he got injured again against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup, I think it was, before we got knocked out actually against Newcastle, he played in Bruno's position and he was excellent, I thought he did really well. So it's good to kind of have competition for places, but I do think if Ten Hag can coach a midfield that is more disciplined, doesn't leave as many open spaces as we do have, that they can play together. Because Mount, what he has got is he's got a lot of energy and he's got a lot of desire to get around the pitch, which obviously is needed in a midfield in the Premier League. So I'm excited to see what his future will be at United, and hopefully he can kick on from that goal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, another couple of players that divide opinion. I think I see a lot of United fans talking about how it doesn't matter how poorly Rashford or Fernandes play, they either always stay on the pitch or they're always going to start. Where do you stand with him? Talking of Marcus Rashford, I just look at him. Had a very good season last season, got a lot of goals. He just looks a shadow of himself. Doesn't look like he's enjoying his football. He's not playing well. Thought he was dreadful for England over the international break. Whether he makes the Euro squad, I think, is going to be touch and go now. What's happened to him, and why is there such a reluctance on Ten Hag's behalf, seemingly, to not use him, or to drop him to the bench, or to take him off when he's not playing well?
Your guess is as good as mine. I think it's a lot of United fans have this question right now. Rashford's massively divided the fan base this season, massively, because a lot of people holding on to what he's done for us in previous seasons. I mean, especially last season, of course. He had an unbelievable season with the goals that he scored for us. I think he got over 30 overall, which is great for him. This season, like you said, a shadow of himself. And not only that, there's been a lot of things that have annoyed Man United fans. I mean, the first thing is he doesn't look like he gives one when he's on the pitch, which is frustrating. Yourself, when a player's come through the academy and, is, like you say, fully Chelsea, or is Manchester born and bred, Rashford's got, that side to him, you expect even that little bit extra, because you should know what it takes. You should know what it is to play for Man United, and you're a fan playing for us at the end of the day. That's how United fans feel about Rashford. So this season, I know he came out with that statement about how never question my commitment to this club, and it was very long, and I really liked the way he kind of spoke in that statement. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to the games every week. What I'm watching isn't matching up to what I'm reading. So you're reading one thing, and I'm watching you walk around the pitch and have poor body language. Like I can't help what my
There's
eyes are
off the
seeing.
pitch things as well, like the trip
Yeah,
to the nightclub in Ireland. Like it's little things that just kind of all adding up that suggests that maybe he's not being advised in the best way. Maybe he's not keeping the best company off the pitch. It's almost like you see it a lot with players. You know, they play really well, they get the big contract, and then they just take their foot off the gas and don't seem bothered. And it just seems
exactly.
to be one of them with Rashford right now.
Yeah, it rubs fans up the wrong way. I mean, I go to the games, and the amount of like conversation there is about Rashford, like walking back, and people saying, this isn't good enough. And it's like, not only are we not seeing it on the pitch, but like you said, the Belfast incident, the going out after the derby that Ten Hag kind of said was unacceptable, and after getting beat by Man City. And I get that players have to have a social life. I completely get that, but don't let it impact your training. Like, calling in ill for training after you've just been on a bender, like that's just not good, especially when at the end of the day he did get the big contract. You're on 375 grand a week, is it? People say treat him fairly, like the rest of the team's been underperforming as well. When you pay a player 375 grand a week, you expect top performances from them every single week. You expect, like, I'm not being funny, I think Mo Salah isn't even on that kind of money. And look at how unreal he is as a football player. You expect the best, and that's not what we've got. When you're paying someone that much, you expect consistency. And Rashford, he can go on a hot streak. He has got ability. Like, everyone's seen that. But when you're not performing it week in, week out, it's so frustrating, because I think the reason, like, to go back to your original question, why Ten Hag doesn't sub him as often as maybe he should, and doesn't rotate him as much as he should, is I think he's holding out some sort of hope or some desperation that he's going to get the Rashford back of last year. But realistically, he shouldn't, in my opinion, shouldn't be doing that. He should just be playing the best players that are performing for him, personally.
Yeah, no, I think that should always be the case. But you always have kind of manager favourites, and there'll always be a certain player or players that they'll just try and play him into form, even if it's blatantly not working. But I mean, in terms of the game itself, United have got a few injury problems, certainly defensively. Obviously, Martinez and Lindelof are both out. Evans and Maguire have returned to training. I think Varane might be okay. A few injury problems. How do you see Ten Hag approaching this game? How do you expect United to set up, and what sort of how do you expect you to play? Because as I said, you've so many shots conceded in general, but a lot against Brentford. I think it was a Premier League record or something. Do you expect Ten Hag to tighten things up a little bit?
I expect so. I mean, Manchester United away from home under Ten Hag have been a disaster. Like, we really have. We're poor the majority of the time away from home. Against the lesser teams, against the bigger teams, it's been an issue for us. Funnily enough, like, I think at Stamford Bridge, like, usually, I think a draw is like a most common result in that game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw again tomorrow night. But I think we have to be more compact. I think we have to obviously give Chelsea that respect. And if Brentford can tear us apart, if Luton can tear us apart, Chelsea, despite having a poor season again yourselves, like, you can do that as well. You have quality players. So we've got to go into this game more humble, I feel like. And of course, I don't think we're going to park the bus. I think we will, try and play football, but I don't think we'll leave as many gaping holes as what we have done in numerous games this season. I think a lot of people, it's easy when you can see that many shots to just look at the defence, but the midfield is massive. Like, there's so many holes. Like, McTominay and Bruno are basically playing as centre forwards, and Kobbie Mainoo, bless him, is there on his own. Like, that can't happen. Like, our midfield three has to stay compact. They have to stay in the shape. I think that's one slight adjustment that you will see in this game. As to who's going to start, it's going to be interesting, because obviously Lisandro Martinez is a huge blow for us, but we're not used to having him anyway because he's been injured the majority of the season. But Johnny Evans has actually been low-key really good for us.
He's played a lot of games, hasn't he?
Yeah. But I think he will go with Varane and Maguire. I think he will. And both of them players have been in good form. So it's not too much of a loss, to be honest with you, in terms of Lindelof and Martinez, even though it would be good to have them. Like, Maguire and Varane have been good. It's just hopefully they can stay fit and they're not being rushed back.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, from a Chelsea perspective, like, we're struggling. We're 12th on the table at the moment. Yes, we've got games in hand. If we were to win tomorrow night, we'd go 5 points behind you with a game in hand. So, like, somehow, despite our best efforts to mess it up, we can still qualify for the Europa League this season via the league. We've still got a chance of winning the FA Cup, even though it's going to be difficult. So there is still stuff to play for. Who do you worry about from a Chelsea perspective on Thursday night? I mean, the obvious one is probably Cole Palmer, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically he is our team. If he doesn't do anything, then we're kind of struggling big time.
Cole Palmer has been what an unbelievable signing he's been. I mean, Chelsea have got it wrong a lot in terms of recruitment under Todd Bowley, but Cole Palmer was one that you got right. He's the gem, isn't he? He's so good. So, and he's a player that I would have liked to see get more time for England. Was he injured or?
He was. Well, yeah, he was injured for the Brazil game, and then he didn't really train that much, so he just wasn't used against Belgium at all.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate for him because I do think he's in with a shout, but he's done brilliantly well for Chelsea this season. And it's hard because people say he's Cole Palmer sign of the season. You'd have to put him up there, but it's hard to give someone sign of the season when they're in a team that's in 12th. Like, no disrespect.
Yeah, it's a problem. Like, he's doing so well and he's putting up these amazing numbers, but I think it's going a little bit unnoticed, or he's not getting the credit he deserves for it because the team is doing so badly. Like, if we were sort of up 5th, 6th or whatever, I think he'd be getting a lot more credit for what he's doing. I think he's put up 30 odd GNA this season, which is like matching what Jude Bellingham's doing in a team that is 12th in the league. Like, but he's not. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for it because of how poorly we're doing overall.
No, I agree with that. But he definitely can cause problems. I remember it at Old Trafford. I think did we beat you 2-1 this season?
He beat us 2-1. Yeah.
And Cole Palmer scored, actually, and there was debates whether Onana should have saved it, but he was not that prominent in the game. But then out of nowhere, he just it's just pinpoint kind of shot that goes into the bottom corner, and he can do that. So he's got such confidence in his own ability, which I think is really important for a forward player. So Cole Palmer is one that definitely is a player to watch for me. Malo Gusto, I think he's back fit for you guys.
Yeah, he's back
available.
in the squad. Yeah, he's back in the squad and available. So I imagine he'll get selected.
Yeah, he's been a great signing for you. Another one that I kind of wish we got, to be honest with you, because he's so young and has got so much potential. So especially with the issues you've had with Reece James, I think that was a good signing for you guys, and he can cause problems. I think he's a really good player. I mean, both defensively and going forward, he's got quality. So he's one that sticks out to me. And do you know what? I don't think people agree with me on this one. I'm not sure what the consensus is in your fan base, but I don't think he's like a world beater or anything, but I think Conor Gallagher's a good player for you guys. So he's definitely someone to kind of watch in that midfield. And in terms of, do I think he's, the next best midfielder of the Premier League? No. But do I think he works incredibly hard for Chelsea? And do I think you should keep him, even though you're looking to sell him? Yeah, so he's one that I'd kind of think about as well, maybe.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, yeah, he kind of divides opinion a little bit. It's a weird thing within the Chelsea fans. I'm sure maybe it's similar in other fan bases where, like, homegrown players seem to divide opinion massively. Like, if Conor Gallagher was, say, we'd signed him from France or whatever, and he had a slightly different name, he would have been already offered a new contract. Like, it's weird how people's perceptions of a player are different because he's homegrown, he's come through the academy. If he was doing exactly what he's doing now, but we bought him from somewhere, the perception around him would be totally different. It's never something I've really I don't understand. Like, it's something I've never personally understood why, certainly within the Chelsea fan base, so many fans go after their own players that have come through the academy that get what it means to play for the club. Like, do I think Gallagher's an amazing footballer? No. Do I think he can serve a purpose within the squad? Absolutely. Yet people just write him off, don't think he's that good.
I don't know. I mean, I'm on a Chelsea channel, so I should be careful what I say, but it's like, you guys paid like over 200 million for Caicedo and Enzo, and for me, they've been really poor this season. I mean, Enzo's had his games, and I think he needs to be surrounded by better players, but like, they've not been like, I think out of, just from watching you guys, I'd say Conor Gallagher's probably been your best midfielder. Like, and obviously he's got a lot of criticism. Yeah,
no, I think he has. I think he has been. I mean, yeah, look, Enzo and Caicedo have had their moments this season. Yes, as a partnership, they have struggled a little bit. I think a lot of that also comes down to the way Pochettino sets the team up. We look very open at times. We're conceding so many goals. We're on course for a club record amount of goals to be conceded. I mean, we were shocking last season. We've already conceded the same amount of goals in 10 games less this time round. Defensively, we're shocking. lack of concentration, lack of organization, just lack of structure, leadership. There's a lot of problems there. I mean, just briefly, what have you made of the job that Pochettino's done? Because he's someone that was linked with the Man United job in the past. A lot of people thought that would have been a good fit for him. Obviously, it didn't happen. What have you made of what he's done this season? I mean, I will give him some leeway. It is exceptionally difficult circumstances at Chelsea. Despite the money spent, it's not an easy job.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it's one of them. It's one of them jobs where I think anybody would struggle, like in terms of the structure and the setup at your football club right now, which is unfortunate. Like I feel like the change of ownership for you guys has massively, massively hindered your ability to succeed, which I kind of feel sorry for you because, I mean, I'm not comparing Todd Bowley to the Glazers because Todd Bowley like wants to win. His heart's in the right place. You know what I mean? His heart is in the right place, but I think the way he's handled things has really put you guys in a spot of bother, to be honest with you. And I think any manager coming in, it's hard for them. Well, that being said, I'm glad we didn't get Pochettino. I'm going to be honest. I think that squad, that Chelsea squad, needs a manager with a backbone so desperately. Potter didn't have a backbone, and I don't think Pochettino has a backbone. I'm going to be honest. I think they need someone really, really strong in there with them, with a strong hand. And I just don't think Pochettino has that. And I don't think Potter has that either. Potter had that either. So despite the fact I think Pochettino, he is a good manager. What he did with Spurs was good, like the way he kind of developed youth. And you think you have a lot of youth in your team, so you think maybe he'd be able to do a similar sort of job. And I'm not saying he's done a horrible job because I think anyone walking into that job, it's tough. And there's a lot to turn around at Chelsea. But I think Chelsea have a squad full of individuals, and I think a lot of them, you've come in on big money, big transfer fees, and I don't think they have the right attitude to succeed at a top club, and I think that needs to change, personally. And can Pochettino do that? I'm not sure if he's got a strong enough character to do it. So I think Pochettino will end up leaving the club personally, and when that will be, I don't know. But if you get someone new in, I think you need to get someone with a really, really strong personality to be able to succeed at Chelsea. But what do you think about Poch?
Do you know what? Like, I think he's done all right. Look, the reality is, we are 12th in the table as things stand. That's not good enough. But there's a lot of things to like about him, but there's also a lot of things where I just look at and I just think, what are you doing? His in-game management shocking. It's absolutely awful. Like, everything's so reactive rather than sensing danger and making changes. He waits for a goal to go in, waits for us to go behind, and then decides, I'm going to make some changes. There just seems to be a complete lack of structural organisation. There doesn't really seem to be any patterns of play, any identity. I know it takes time to build a team, but I'd think after 3/4 of a season, you'd at least expect to see the basics. We can't seem to defend. There's a problem. I think, look, I know some managers like manage in different ways, but one thing I've noticed by going to a lot of the games, he's not very up on the touchline much. He spends a lot of time just sat in the dugout. And I know, some managers are more enthusiastic than others. Your Artetas, your Contes and whatnot, they get up and animated on the touchline. But Poch just kind of sits in the dugout, doesn't really do that much, doesn't seem to offer much instruction. I mean, in the week, he was talking about how in games where if we're struggling and we've got backs against the wall, we kind of just pass to Cole Palmer and hope that he can do something. That's not great.
No. He like I said, he's lacking that personality that I think's needed at a club like Chelsea. I mean, people talk about Ten Hag having a bit of a lack of a personality as well, but I mean, I do see massive differences between them two managers. But do you know what it was with Pochettino for me? It was the Carabao Cup final against Liverpool. You should have won that.
We actually played really well until extra time. We actually played all right. This is
what I mean. The in-game management, like I said, like you should have won that game, and you should have, took Liverpool in that extra time. But it felt like you were playing for penalties. I know he just said he wasn't, but that's how it felt. And it's like Liverpool literally had like so many inexperienced youth players on the team. To let them win that game, I just think if that was United, I would have been fuming.
Well, he just dropped off for no apparent reason. We finished the 90 really strong, and as you say, we should have been up and at them. Giving it everything in that extra time. I do worry sometimes in extra times that teams are I know it's not golden goal anymore, but teams are scared of conceding because
Yeah.
there's not that much time to get back into. I do get that to a degree, but if you're going to lose, I'd rather lose going for it than just lose go retreating into your shell. But there's a lot of frustrating things about him. But at some point, as a Chelsea fan base, we're going to have to back a manager through a difficult period. We can't just keep getting rid of them. The whole point, they talk about this project they're doing, and already, we're nearly in May. Oh yeah, next month is 2 years since they took over the club, and the project hasn't really moved forwards anywhere. And we could potentially, in the summer, be looking at a third manager of this project, and we've not really moved forward on it. So at some point, we do need to back a manager through a difficult period of time. If Pochettino's going to be that guy, I don't know. They'll assess his future at the end of the season, whether he might not want to continue. There's also that thing. I don't think Chelsea's a great environment to work in, to be perfectly honest. So he might not want to continue either. But yeah, it's certainly been a difficult 2 years for sure. But to round out, score prediction, as I said, we've not beaten United in the league since 2017. You've got a good record against us. Stamford Bridge does tend to be a draw. I'd love to say that they're going to win, but from what I've seen on the pitch recently and this season in general, I can't sit here and say that we are going to win this game. So I'm probably just I think it'll be a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1. How do you see it going? Do you think you can get a big away win?
Well, I actually just did my prediction on the United stand before this show, and I went with a 2-2 draw. I don't see us winning it personally, just based off the fact away from home we are really, really poor. But at the same time, we can't afford to lose. I won't be surprised if we did lose, by the way, because as bad as Chelsea have been, you've put performances together this season, you really kind of put a great performance together against City. You can do it when you turn up to the plate, and it's Stamford Bridge. You've got that home support behind you. So, I mean, I'm going to go probably on the fence a little bit, and I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. But it's sad, like Chelsea and United, they used to have a great rivalry.
It used to be Premier League titles, and now it's just a bit of a nothing match with two. I don't want to say irrelevant clubs,
mid-table clubs.
Yeah, it basically is. It's sad how we've kind of fallen so far from the glory days of Mourinho and Ferguson, but. Maybe one day we can get back there. But Beth, thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated, guys. Make sure you check out the United stand. Loads of great stuff over there. Go and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you again in another one soon.